Hello, Facebook Live. Hello, Reason. Hello, Internet. It is morning in New Mexico. It's morning in America, and I'm standing next to the man who is about to, throughout the course of today, receive more votes than any third-party presidential candidate has in at least 20 years. Gary Johnson, the nominee for the Libertarian Party. Governor Johnson, how you doing?
I'm doing good, and it's good that we're finally here. The finish line has been reached, and it is a beautiful morning in Santa Fe.
It is a beautiful morning in Santa Fe. Tell us about your Cubs hat.
Well, the Cubs did win the World Series, so anything is possible, and I'm not discounting victory today. Going to have to deal with Secret Service probably soon after 7 o'clock, soon after the polls close. So.
Now, this morning, I don't know if you're aware of this, but 538 revised its polls for you from 4.8 to 5.0%. Can you tell the kids out there who are thinking about voting what 5% means to you, to the party, to the world?
Well, outside of winning, 5% would mean no ballot access issues for the Libertarian Party in the next presidential cycle. And it would also mean $10 million in federal funds that would really be a game changer for the next Libertarian candidate running for president.
Did you see where your friend Penn Jillette executed some kind of a vote swap? He's in Nevada, total swing state, worried about President Trump, and so convinced, he says, a dozen of his friends in blue states to vote for Gary Johnson. What do you think about that kind of horse trading?
Well, I don't know if it's going to end up working. Penn certainly has been a really big supporter, says he feels terrible about switching votes. Penn, maybe you should feel terrible about switching votes. I mean, come on.
What's your message out there to the Penn Jillettes of the world, or the reverse Penn Jillettes, and I'm not sure exactly who those would be, but it's an interesting metaphysical idea, who are worried about being in the swing state and voting today?
Well, look, if you're going to waste your vote on Trump or Clinton, waste your vote on Trump or Clinton. Right now, 2 days after this election, you can hold your head high with a vote for Johnson and Weld. That isn't just 2 days from now, that's 2 months from now, 2 years from now, 20 years from now. You know, we've been endorsed by 8 major newspapers. The most recent one was on Sunday, Charleston, South Carolina, largest newspaper in the state. And paraphrasing, what they're saying is these guys are the most qualified guys running for president. They're talking about the issues like they should be talked. And we, back to the 8 newspapers, we have an obligation to ourselves, first and foremost, to do our jobs. And so here it is. These are the guys you should vote for. They might not win, but nothing's going to change if you don't vote for change.
We are on Facebook Live. I am Matt Welch with Governor Gary Johnson. A reminder, send us your questions. We'll get a few of them in there while we're doing this live, while we still have his time. This has been a weird, bizarre election in many respects, including the amount to which people revile the leading two candidates. I wouldn't say leading, but the ones who were doing the best in the polls, major party nominees. Do you think that this is an outlier, some kind of black swan situation, or is it more a logical conclusion of where the parties and the two-party system is going?
I'm going the latter. I think this is a logical conclusion of when 28% of the electorate is Democrats, 26% of the electorate is Republicans. 50% of all new voters that register are registering as independent. Well, it's broken. The system is broken.
Now, so you've taken the party from a place. In 2008, Bob Barr got 0.4% of the vote. You got 1% of the vote last time. This time flirting with 5. We'll see what happens there. It's going to be a lot of new people coming into the system, and in addition to the activists who have done so much to get ballot access everywhere. What are your messages to those groups of people, those discrete groups of people? What do you tell the new people who've just come into the Libertarian Party about what to do in the future and where we go from here?
Well, I think it's exciting. I think at the onset, a lot of new people are coming in, and that's a really good thing. I think we're going to be taken aback by qualified former Democrat elected officials that really do care about balancing the federal budget, really care about spending. I think there are going to be a lot of former Republican elected officials that are going to come in to run for office because they really don't want to carry around the Republican social dogma, and neither party seems to care anything about reducing the size and scope of government, which which fundamentally I think libertarians are in that camp. Fundamentally, libertarians are constitutional. The Constitution of the United States is a document that limits the power and scope of government. I think most people, when they understand that, are libertarians.
When you say we're going to get a lot more former Democrats and former Republicans in there, that's an item of some controversy among a hardcore libertarian activists. What about the homegrown libertarians here? What do you say to those people who don't want another? They love you, but they don't want another former R, former D to be the voice or face of the party.
Then get out there and be active, and that's an exciting process. I mean, that's the exciting prospect for the Libertarian Party moving forward, is this whole open debate and discussion among just as you point out. I think we're going to be taken aback by former elected officials, but yeah, they're going to be competing with a entirely new crop of libertarians, and so I think tickets are going to get filled from top to bottom. And bottom line, I think this is the start of what will ultimately be Libertarian Party supplanting the two other parties.
Some of the libertarians were a little bent out of shape when Bill Weld went on Rachel Maddow a week ago and saying that he was there to vouch for the honesty of Hillary Clinton. Were you aware that was happening when it happened? Did you and him talk about it in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot. Bill's really got it in for Trump. Okay, so just give Bill a break. And and I say that lovingly. Look, we started this out as friends, and we're going to end this as best of friends. I can't say enough about Bill Weld, and I think he's brought about this surge, if you will, in support.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, because people are obviously debating on, I liken this to the Goldilocks libertarian campaign. Like, it exceeded all expectations. It was a crushing disappointment. It was both. Tell people out there, specifically, since you've run these things twice, what difference Bill Weld brought to the table into this campaign is from your lines.
Well, I think he brought a stamp of credibility. I think that up and down the East Coast, where he's really well known, and that is where all the major media hangs out, that, gee, why would he be hitching his wagon to the Libertarian Party, to Gary Johnson? Well, there's a reason for it, and I think it's showing up right now, will show up in the vote totals tonight.
Again, this is Matt Welch, Facebook Live. We got a question here from Christopher Nelson. Would the LP ever accept federal matching funds? This is a question of some import, since getting the 5% would allow it to be eligible for something. We don't really know exactly the final number, but it'd be maybe around $10 million if we're running it today.
Well, it's a $200 million fund, so starting at 5%. Anything less than 5%, no money. 5% would be $10 million of $200 million. And that is the checkoff box. That is the voluntary checkoff box on our income tax. So I would hope that the Libertarian Party, if in fact we do get to 5% plus, would take those funds, because it's a game changer. You can't compete in politics without money. We raised $12 million, Hillary $1.8 billion, Trump $1.3 billion. Hey, when you do the math on votes, I mean, do the votes, divide it by the money. We're gonna get outspent by Hillary 40-1 when it comes to votes, dollars per vote.
Were you disappointed that some libertarian money didn't come off the sidelines? Ultimately, did you expect to raise more?
No, I'm pretty satisfied. I think if we'd have been in the presidential debates, I think you'd have seen 20-fold increase in the amount of money that we did raise. I think we would have raised hundreds of millions of dollars if we would have been in the presidential debates. I'm hoping that as a result of this race, that at a minimum, people will recognize that the emperor wears no clothes when it comes to the Presidential Debate Commission.
Let's go to another question here. Kathy K. Would you consider running for Congress? Or, as someone said here, Governor of New Mexico again? I've heard people say Senator.
No.
I don't think that was convincing enough.
No.
Peter Meister says, Gary, are you and Governor Weld going to pursue any future action against the CPD, the Commission for Presidential Debates?
Yeah, actually, that is ongoing. I mean, it's being appealed. That's through Our America Initiative. So, yeah, we're going to see that through to its conclusion.
What have you learned this time that's separate from last time about the kind of structures the ghost architecture of the two-party system and of the way of not just like the rules that it has in terms of ballot access and the CPD, but also kind of the sway it has on people's minds. What have you learned this time that's fresh?
Well, when I'm going to say that that if we got 1% of the attention of national media, that would probably be about an accurate number. 1%. You know, when the reporting is 99 to 1, that's hard to overcome. It really is. And so that 99 to 1, you know, if we end up winning, if we end up with a large percentage, boy, that's quite a return on investment.
Now you were talking about, I've seen in the last few days, talking about that you're a transitory figure. As of tomorrow, you are a nobody. Assuming you don't win the presidency, and I'm speaking too soon. But in terms of Libertarian Party future, what advice are you going to give a 2020 candidate or the party going forward in general? I mean, it's a huge vault to go from 1%ville to 5%ville and potentially higher than that. What are some pitfalls that they should avoid, ways to look at it?
So, since I've been governor of New Mexico, I bet 50 people have come to me for advice. And I've offered up advice to 50 different people. I've offered up advice to 100 people that have come to me seeking advice. Nobody's listened to a word of it. Not one word of it. So, I'll probably continue that futility if anybody asks, but it's futility.
We have a question here from Brian Gentner. Mr. Johnson, since you have said you're not running in 2020, who would you like to see be the LP nomination in 2020? Let's start these fights right now.
Hey, I just think that I think everybody's going to be blown away by this election. I really do. I think there's going to be an extraordinary selection, and that we'll be blown away by those that are seeking that nomination, especially if there's a $10 million pot to be tapped into.
I'm Matt Welch again with Gary Johnson here. We're on Election Day. We're in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It is a little bit chilly. I'm going to be honest with you here.
We're 7,000 feet, and it's first week in November, second week in November. So, hey, we want the snow to fall. Skiing is as good as anywhere on the planet here in New Mexico, in Taos.
There you go.
And Santa Fe, second best ski area in the state.
We have our Jim Fulner, and he planned on getting electoral voters to change their votes. Did you guys work the levers on that, of trying to get faithless electoral college electors in case the thing gets close?
You know, no work on our part, but that isn't to say that still couldn't happen, but possibility.
Now, I asked you this yesterday, but not on Facebook Live, so let's ask it again. There's other aspects to the election besides a 5% total. There is beating the spread between the major two candidates. There is beating Jill Stein like a gong. What are some of the kind of side bets that you're looking forward to winning this time?
No side bets. Wherever it turns out, I think it's important to point out that, last time it was 1%. This time it's going to blow that away. For some, that's just horrible. For others, it's recognized for, big-time gains.
Matt Welch from Facebook Live and Reason here. Lori Ford, are you going back to being the CEO of Sativa?
Well, of cannabis sativa, no.
I'm not familiar with this lingo.
No discussions on that part, but I do think California is going to legalize pot today, along with Arizona, Massachusetts, what other state that does?
Arizona, I think Nevada.
And Nevada, thank you. I think today is going to be the tipping point when it comes to marijuana. Everything that's happened so far, with the exception of just a handful of states, has happened at the ballot box, wherever it's legal. I think after today, legislatures will embrace it. And so the future of the marijuana industry, I think, is really positive.
How does that feel as the politician who was first of any kind of major office in this country to come out in favor of legalizing marijuana, which you did in 1999? How does it feel to be sitting here 18 years later, and we are on this cusp of having 70 million people living in legalized marijuana states?
Well, yeah, when I came out saying let's legalize marijuana, 30% of Americans supported that. Today, that's double that number. you know what? I'm saying a lot of things that come another 15 years are going to transpire also. So,
Well, let's hear about some of those things briefly while we still have you here on Election Day. What are some of the things that you're talking about taking flack for that America is going to want to be dealing with starting, on Wednesday?
And I hate to say this, but the ramifications of not balancing the federal budget are going to be horrible. There is going to be horrible inflation to accompany our spending money that we don't have, spending money that isn't covered by revenue unless we get this under control. The worst of all taxes, every single cent that you've got in the bank is going to be worth less because of the inflation that will accompany this. This is not something I want to see come true, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to predict that this will be the outcome. With regard to military interventions, diplomacy, free trade, we should be embracing free trade. Something that right now, either one of them are elected, it's isolationist.
Another question here from Jason Perez. Would you have done anything differently early on to get your name out there in this campaign?
No, I think, you know what? No regrets whatsoever. None. If I were to have a regret, it would be not having done this. And since I did it, I have no regrets.
People always ask me, because they're very mature, of when are you going to start smoking pot again after the election?
Well, I kind of...
Or not smoking, I'm sorry,
indulging in marijuana products. After today, no longer seeking public office, I'll be able to take the stance that I am a private citizen and my life is my life, and I'll be able to do that for the first time in a long time, like 4 years.
What are your general plans as a private citizen, if you have any? People have asked around the edges of that, but what are you looking forward to?
Skiing minimum of 100 days this season, and then getting as fit as a 63-year-old can possibly get, living out my final years. I'm gonna really be a role model for health and fitness.
Tell us the worst thing that we expect to see from a President Clinton should that come to pass.
Well, worst thing is going to be the constant drumbeat of impeachment. That's going to happen. Worst thing, that she actually gets impeached. Let's shift over on the Trump side. He'll be in court for whatever. Hopefully it won't be something criminal, and expect conviction, and worst case, conviction for something criminal.
Those sound like pretty bad events. You're a positive guy. Do you fear for our country in a certain way, given the political season that we've had this year, or are you still optimistic despite whatever the hell happens?
Well, I'm always optimistic, but in this case, these are two really horrible choices, and nothing's going to change if you waste your vote on one of those two. The only way you're going to change things is vote your conscience, vote for real change, and in this election cycle, Bill Weld and I are representing that in spades.
All right. We'll have one last question before we set you free for the rest of the day. Tommy Burton says, no matter what happens today, what do you think the future holds for the GOP?
I think the GOP's done. I think with Donald Trump as the nominee, I think that Donald Trump alienates more than half of Republicans, and I don't see the Republican Party surviving this.
All right. Well, Gary Johnson, thank you very much. We'll be seeing you later on tonight here for Facebook
Anybody
Live.
in the Albuquerque area, come on out. Albuquerque Hotel near Old Town. It's going to be a celebration.
Very good. I'm Matt Welch for Reason. Look for
Cubs hat. This Cubs hat here is for a reason. Anything can happen.
That's right. And check us out at Reason.com all day long as we're doing more stuff like this. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.